what if saving the world meant losing the person you loved most?
Oh, wow. That's heavy right out of the gate.
I know, right? But I want you, the listener, to really just sit with that for a second,
Mhm.
because it's this staggering dilemma. And whether you're like just a casual weekend popcorn movie fan, or you're a diehard aficionado who bags and boards every classic comic issue.
Yeah, the real collectors.
Exactly. This is a question that completely transcends the boundaries of normal superhero fiction.
Yeah.
So today, we are doing a deep dive into the provided text, analyzing the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Peter Parker and MJ.
The ultimate sacrifice.
Right. Our mission today is to break down their dynamic and try to answer an almost impossible question. At the end of No Way Home, was his choice genuinely heroic, or was it just, unbearably cruel?
Well, the text really distills this down to the absolute most painful essence of human conflict. I mean, you're looking at the ultimate collision of duty versus desire. And to understand why this specific relationship hurts so much to lose, the source material points out that we have to look at modern storytelling. Because, so often in this genre, romance is it's just a structural requirement.
Oh, for sure. Like, the script says they need a love interest, so they just throw two highly attractive leads together in the second act?
Right. They survive one explosion, and suddenly we're just told, okay, they're deeply in love now.
It feels so unearned.
Exactly. But with Peter and MJ, the analytical notes highlight this deliberate, just agonizingly slow burn over multiple films. It wasn't forced into one script. It grew organically.
And I really want to dig into the architecture of that bond, because the tragedy of that final decision, it just doesn't land unless we understand the specific psychology of these two people.
So true.
When you look at Peter's profile in the text, obviously, you see the brilliance, you see the compassion, but there's this much heavier thing operating underneath. It's this almost suffocating, pathological burden of responsibility.
Yeah, he's basically incapable of prioritizing his own happiness.
Right. If someone else is at risk, he just absorbs the suffering so others don't have to. It's like he's constantly atoning for the mentors and family members he's already lost.
Which, as the text points out, creates this really fascinating and honestly dangerous vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because when someone operates with that extreme level of self-sacrifice, they attract people who either want to exploit them.
Or they attract people who just completely idolize them.
Exactly. And this is where MJ comes in as the perfect narrative counterweight. She vehemently refuses to do either of those things.
Which is so refreshing.
It really is. The source notes that she's incredibly observant. I mean, she pieces together his secret identity purely through deduction long before anyone tells her.
She just figures it out.
Right. And she uses this dry, deeply sarcastic humor, mostly as a defense mechanism against a world she clearly finds pretty overwhelming. But the absolute most vital part of her character is that she outright refuses to treat Peter like a deity.
Yes. Because in classic superhero dynamics, you always get this massive asymmetrical power imbalance,
Oh, absolutely. The god and the mortal.
Right. The hero is this godlike figure, and the love interest is the grounded mortal just perpetually waiting around to be rescued. But she looks right past the superpowers. To her, he's just, the dork from decathlon practice who constantly flakes on their plans.
And by stripping away that reverence, she forces him to just be Peter Parker. It grounds him in a reality that his powers could never give him. The Nates emphasize that they built this dynamic in the trenches of awkward teenage existence, way before it was ever romantic.
It wasn't like a dramatic kiss in the pouring rain.
No, not at all. It was weird glances in the hallway, it was detention, it was shared trauma.
It makes me think of how materials are forged, like building a house on bedrock instead of sand. Most superhero romances are built like standard glass. They look beautiful, they're transparent, but they're super brittle.
One supervillain attack and they shatter.
Exactly. But Peter and MJ's relationship is more like annealed glass. It goes through this incredibly intense heat, and then it cools down very, very slowly. Going through the crucible of those first two films together, the alien invasions, the lying to cover his tracks, that was the heat.
It altered their structural integrity.
Right. By the time they actually admit their feelings, they're already shatter-resistant. Which actually poses an interesting question for you listening. Is Peter Parker a hero because a radioactive spider bit him, or is his heroism defined by his capacity to endure that heat, to make that impossible sacrifice?
That's a great point.
And, does starting as friends, bypassing that fake smile stage of dating, inherently create a stronger bond?
Well, Psychologically speaking, bypassing that performative stage is a massive advantage. I mean, usually when you start dating, you spend the first 6 months basically acting as your own PR manager,
Like totally, hiding all the flaws.
curating your personality. But Peter and MJ had already seen each other's neuroses and worst fears. There was no PR campaign. They were already emotionally transparent. And to your point about his heroism, the text is clear. The superpowers are just a utility belt.
Yeah.
The heroism is entirely his willingness to dismantle his own life for the greater good. The spider gave him agility, but the trauma gave him his moral compass.
To really appreciate how unique this is, the text compares MCU Peter and MJ to the absolute legends, the Hall of Fame of Spider-Man romances. You have to look at Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane Watson to see how this modern MJ was sort of reverse engineered.
Right, so let's look at Gwen Stacy first. The source outlines her as the archetype of the tragic first love. She brings that pure, unadulterated passion.
The ultimate tragedy.
Exactly. Because she's so bright in the comic lore, her sudden death leaves a permanent impact crater in Peter's psyche. She defines the legal stakes of putting on the mask. She is his greatest failure, the absolute worst-case scenario. And then on the other end, you pivot to Mary Jane Watson. Classic MJ. She's the undisputed cultural icon. The glamour, the fiery energy.
Right. She perfectly matches the operatic swinging through Manhattan scale of his life. She's basically framed as the ultimate prize at the end of the superhero journey.
So you have Gwen's profound tragedy and Mary Jane's massive iconography. And what the text says the MCU does with Michelle Jones Watson is deliberately step away from both of those extremes.
It swaps the operatic drama for vulnerability.
Exactly. It's not about rescuing a supermodel or grieving a lost love. It's an equal partnership. She asserts herself. She doesn't wait to be collateral damage. She tells him, I'm coming with you. We are figuring this out together.
But, okay, I want to play devil's advocate here and push back on that a bit.
Sure.
If Gwen is the heartbreak and classic Mary Jane is the cultural titan, couldn't you argue that MCU MJ just feels powerful right now because she's like hyper-tailored to modern sensibilities?
What do you mean?
Like, is she genuinely an equal partner? Or is she just a reflection of Gen Z anxiety and sarcasm that plays well today? Are we confusing her relatability with actual agency?
Yeah. That is a really perceptive challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, the sarcasm and anxiety definitely make her recognizable. But the analytical breakdown points out that her power really does come from proactive agency, not just her aesthetic.
Yeah.
You have to look at her actions. When things go catastrophically wrong, she doesn't freeze. She physically holds the magical MacGuffin. She presses the button. She's the one physically pulling Peter back from the brink of murder when he's consumed by rage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's true.
She doesn't just support his narrative, she co-authors it. We respect her as a peer to a demigod.
Co-authorship. That concept is brilliant. Because if she genuinely co-authors his life, then erasing her from that story isn't just a breakup, it's an amputation.
It really is.
Which brings us to the crux of the hero. The climax of No Way Home. The spell. Because I want to examine the actual mechanics of his choice. It's so much darker than just giving up a girlfriend.
Right. To stop an infinite number of multiverse threats, Peter forces Doctor Strange to cast a spell that removes Peter Parker from the collective memory of the universe.
Not just the secret identity.
No, the very existence of Peter Parker.
The mechanics are horrifying. Every photograph, every school record, his birth certificate, his passport, all of it just gone. He's legally a ghost.
He effectively kills himself without dying. He actively chooses the physical safety of the multiverse, and specifically the safety of MJ and his best friend Ned over his own existence.
He gives up the whole future they planned.
Everything. Boston growing old together. He packs into this miserable, freezing apartment. He even has a GED booklet on his table because he doesn't officially have a high school diploma anymore.
That scene where he walks into the coffee shop afterward. It genuinely hurts to analyze. He has this rehearsed speech on a folded piece of paper. He'd promised her he'd make her remember.
But then he sees the bandage on her forehead.
Yes. From the battle.
Yeah.
You can visibly see the cruel math happening in his head. He realizes the collateral damage of knowing Peter Parker is physical harm to MJ. So he folds the paper. He buys a coffee, and he just walks out.
He leaves her with a completely fabricated version of her own life.
It's devastating.
The psychological toll is staggering. The spell didn't just alter reality, it severed his entire emotional support system. He isn't fighting a physical villain there. He's fighting his own desperate human desire to just be loved and known.
Right. He honors the responsibility of the mask at the uncompromising expense of the boy underneath, which forces us into the great debate from the text. Was it actually worth it?
The ultimate question.
Yeah. The source refuses to give a comfortable answer, and I want to throw this to you listening. Was this heroic or an unforgivable violation of trust? Let's take the yes argument first. Why was it the right call?
Well, the yes argument is pure utilitarianism. It's a numbers game. Objectively, he saved countless lives across the multiverse. The fabric of reality was tearing, and he was the surgical suture.
And on a micro level, he protected MJ.
Exactly. If she has no memory of him, she's invisible to Spider-Man's enemies. Philosophically, he fulfilled the mandate of his powers. He prioritized the many over the few. He suffered so the universe wouldn't have to.
It's clean. It's logical. But man, the no argument from the text hits so much harder because it deals with the human cost. Consider his support network. Aunt May is dead. Tony Stark is dead.
Everyone is gone.
And now his chosen family has no idea he exists. He lost the exact people he was fighting to save. What is the value of saving the world if your reward is living in it completely alone? But beyond that, there's a massive ethical issue regarding MJ.
You're talking about consent?
Yes. He strips away her agency. We just established she was a co-author of his life. She explicitly told him she wanted to take the risk. By making that choice for her in the diner, he decided he knew what was better for her than she did. He took away her fundamental right to choose.
It's a profound moral gray area. He protected her physical body, but he violated her autonomy. Did he save her or fundamentally diminish her?
Both can be true at once.
Exactly. He's a savior and he's a thief.
So to the listener, think about your own life. The person you trust most. Would you permanently erase every memory they have of you, every joke, every shared trauma, just to keep them safe? Or is a life without the right to choose who you love not a life worth saving?
It's messy. It's painful. And this unresolved ethical nightmare is fueling all the anticipation for the next chapter. The source outlines fan theories for what's supposedly titled Spider-Man: Brand New Day.
Because the tension between destiny and circumstance is just at a boiling point. Will destiny override Doctor Strange's magic? Fans are looking at physical anchors, right? Like the Black Dahlia necklace she still wears.
Exactly. Can an object trigger a repressed memory? It made me think of how biological memory works.
You have the factual data and the emotional center. Think about phantom limb syndrome.
Oh, wow.
The physical arm is gone, the data is removed, but the nervous system still fires. The brain still feels the fingers.
That is a brutal analogy. So if MJ's factual memories are excised, does her emotional nervous system still recognize him? In the diner, she gives him this look loaded with unspoken recognition, like a phantom limb.
Right. The data is deleted, but did the spell fail to erase the emotional scaffolding? Does her heart rate change when he speaks, even if she doesn't know why?
The notes suggest fans are clinging to that hope. But this raises a tricky philosophical dilemma. If the magic can be bypassed, if she just touches the necklace and remembers, doesn't that fundamentally cheapen the devastation of No Way Home?
Oh, absolutely. If you hit the undo button in the first act of the next movie, this soul-crushing sacrifice just becomes a mild inconvenience.
It lowers the stakes completely.
Yeah, if he knows he could just win her back, he didn't really sacrifice her. He just took a sabbatical from the relationship.
Right. So logically, for the sacrifice to matter, the separation has to endure. Peter has to truly try to move on. He can't just hover around her coffee shop forever. But can you ever really move on when the person you love is alive, well, and serving you lattes?
It's a torturous place to leave a character. As we wrap up this deep dive, the themes here, the crushing weight of duty, the trauma bonding, the agony of lost agency, it all points back to this central prompt. Are Peter and MJ Spider-Man's greatest love story?
Well, the fact that their dynamic was built on mutual respect and co-authorship makes this severing so complex. It's a tragedy manufactured entirely by his own moral compass.
So, to you, our listener, I invite you to ponder this.
Yeah.
Put yourself in Peter's shoes at that counter. You have the speech in your pocket. You're looking at the person who knows you best, and she's looking at you like a stranger. Would you have the strength to fold that paper and walk away?
And if you're wondering if they'll find their way back, consider this final provocative thought from the text. When a hero erases the memories of his loved ones, the relationship doesn't cease to exist. It just relocates entirely into one mind. Is Peter Parker now forced to carry the grief, the joy, and the love of two people all by himself? He has to remember the immense love MJ felt for him because she no longer can. Can a human mind sustain that staggering level of solitary memory without losing the very humanity that made him a hero in the first place?
What if saving the world really did mean losing the person you loved most?